I began my search for the Unitarian Universalist tree of life with a sense of excitement. Do we have one tree like the Bodhi tree in the Buddhist tradition, where a Unitarian or a Universalist sat for days until they had received a vision of UU enlightenment? Should I compare our experiences as UUs to the Jewish tree of life, studied in the Kabbalah and used in the Western mystical tradition by Christians during the Middle Ages and on into modern times? I attended a Jewish Tree of Life Seder last week. It was a wonderful experience. Or would our tree look like the chakra system of yoga from Hindu meditation practices? Could it be a tree like Yggdrasil, the Norse tree used for otherworldly meditations? I wanted to do justice to a particular UU tree or related meditation system. If I encountered it, I would have recognized it, I hope, but I have not found one. UUs use the image of trees in many creative ways. We even have congregations named after the tree of life, but I didn't find a defining, quintessential UU tree of life to present to you. Those winds had me going today. The upside of this search, as with many quests, is that wonderful tree of life stories now appear to me everywhere. I'm maybe not more than usual, but I'm definitely noticing them. And I could spend hours telling you about all the really cool tree lore I found. But I knew I had to stay focused to find a Unitarian Universalist tree in hopes I could present the tree. What I discovered is that our UU sacred tree is a plural, that we have trees, sacred groves, orchards, and forests. We UUs also have a deep and ancient ways of communication, as trees do. Marta Valentin has reminded us that in our spirit of the circle that is love, we can give thanks for the reminders to minister to each other, like the leaves that rustle around the sacred trees. One of the most profound experiences I had with trees when I was about 11 years old was when I would wander around on walks by myself when my family went to the mountains or the desert. This was a different time. I just ran all over when we were out camping. One of my solo hikes in the mountains, I went into a small clearing that had a slight valley. The huge pine trees surrounded me and blew far, far, far over my head. It was magnificent. The wood was alive with wind and small animals and birds and those gorgeous tall pine trees swaying back and forth. I sat in awe and a little afraid when I realized how small I was in this vast network of wind and life and sound. It was a transformative moment for me. It's not too difficult to put together a traditional tree metaphor or a simile for UUism that includes root and trunk, bark and branch, leaves and fruit. We can build our tree of life with our UU roots, the 6 sources that honor our earth-centered religious traditions, our humanist heritage, our Judeo-Christian traditions, and our own direct experiences. If you aren't familiar with the 6 sources, you can find them on our UU websites and in our gray hymnal. We can create a UU tree trunk from our Unitarian and our Universalist ancestors, 2 separate faiths. Originally, now we're one. And those who envisioned and shaped this wonderful faith of ours. Our branches are our 7 principles. The people in our generation of UUs could be represented as the new fruit and leaves. This is a beautiful image, and we could create an entire service around any one of these images. Using the tree-based image of UUism allow us to ask ourselves, what holds each of us? What roots us to Unitarian Universalism? What part of the UU tree allows each of us to grow and flourish? If we look a little deeper at our UU tree of life, we can explore the newly discovered, hidden to human world of trees. German forester Peter Wohlleben published a book titled The Hidden Life of Trees several years ago. Some of you are probably familiar with it. This is one book that has popularized what scientists have recently discovered, that tree communication systems are highly complex, very real, and present in the world's forests. Dr. Suzanne Simard, who also does this work of translating tree talk for humans, was born in the Menashe Mountains of British Columbia and is a professor of forest ecology. If you've ever stood in a forest, as I did as a child, or been present for the turning of the leaves on the East Coast, anybody been there? It's amazing. It's just amazing. And felt like the trees are talking, you're right. Dr. Simard nicknamed forest and tree communication the wide wood web. Trees do have their own communication networks and are actively humming away, but the trees have been communicating long before we came on this scene. It's new information for us humans, and they'll likely be here long after humans are gone. Overall, we have been poor stewards of the trees on our planet, and our world is teetering between extremes of fire and water right now, with our out-of-control fires raging around us here in the West. Ancient trees, our beautiful coastal and inland forests, are being destroyed by global warming and drought conditions. In the area around Olympia in Greece, 120,000 acres of forest burned last summer. And I just read we have more fires raging in California right now along Highway 1. Mendocino in the north is running out of water, and expensive fresh water is being trucked in for human use. Unexpected floods are killing people around the globe. Throw in a pandemic, one could argue there is very little reason for hope right now. Surprisingly, I found hope for our planet, and by extension, for continued sharing of love and compassion, in a video that my daughter recommended on Netflix. It's called Fantastic Fungi. Fantastic Fungi sounds like a superhero movie, but this recent documentary about the mycelial networks of fungi, including mushrooms and their friends, the trees, brought a smile to my lips and a song to my heart. The people in this film, including Dr. Suzanne Simard, are so upbeat. They're so much fun. They're hopeful in their outlook about the healing powers of mycelium and tree communication for our Earth. They're a really unique group, really fun, and wonderful cheerleaders for the powerful network of transportation, communication, and transformation that trees and mycelium and tree communication are right there cheering us on to explore and to appreciate. They had me cheering along with them, and you will too. Again, the video is called Fantastic Fungi. Just the name is fun and enthusiastic. A cheerful group that definitely puts the fun in fungi. To define mycelium for us lay folks, they are the threads created by fungi that break down decomposing matter and transform it into reusable nutrients. Mold is a type of fungus, and that grows mushrooms. I once had the surprise of finding a single mushroom growing inside my apartment next to a leaking patio door. Apparently this happens. I can appreciate, even if I don't fully enjoy, this process. Most of us have occasionally pulled that forgotten container of food from the back of the refrigerator to find it covered in what I call mold fur. You certainly can't ignore the bright colors and determined stickiness of mold if you want to reuse your Tupperware, and there is usually a very strong ick factor. The bright colored threads now reaching out for you from those former blueberries and kale in the fridge are the mycelium that are recycling the organic matter. We can see fungi on the top of the land doing the good work of decomposition, but there are also vast networks of mycelium under our feet that allow plants and trees and other vegetation that coexist with us to very actively communicate with each other. Dr. Simard had observed in the 1990s in a human-maintained forest that contained both aspen firs and birch trees that if the birch trees were removed, The aspen, the birches were removed, the fir trees also began to die. She found that the two types of trees take turns sending nutrients to each other during different seasons. Like Unitarian Universalists, they take care of each other. She wondered how they were doing this, how the trees could talk to each other. What she found was the fungus that carries carbon and nutrients back and forth between the trees. She says this creates a busy, cooperative internet. This discovery has transformed our understanding of trees. She says trees are no longer considered individual competitive crusaders of the self, but creatures that live within complex community. Trees are members of a connected, relating, communicating system. Dr. Simard also found in groves and forests there are mother trees that tend and care for the nearby trees and pass on important information about survival when the grove is threatened or the mother tree is failing. A disease or injured tree can influence gene regulation, defense chemistry, and help with resilience in the larger forest community of trees by passing certain information along. These trees talk in their own way. When a tree is cut off from water, it makes a vibrating sound in its bark, and that sound has actually been recorded by scientists. In addition to having lessons for us about communication and sharing vital life forces, these recent tree discoveries have strong theological component too. I'm delighted to report that the description of the interconnectivity of the planet through mycelium in the documentary Fantastic Fungi was one of the best descriptions of my own theological experience and stance, pantheism. I have found that the divine is in everything, in the universe and beyond, communicating and linking us all. I often use the image of the Force from Star Wars to explain pantheism. As you use, we often speak of the web of life from our seventh principle. The expanse of mycelium beneath us and the trees of the world further expands this conception of an interconnected web of life. May the Force be with you has a stronger ring than may the mycelium be with you. But I plan to start using that slogan to help explain the interconnectedness of pantheism. May the mycelium be with you and peace be upon you. Isn't that a great line for a pantheistic Jedi or a minister? Trees have been around for approximately 370 million years, and humans emerged on the mammalian scene about 85 million years ago. Trees have almost 300 million years of existence and evolution beyond that of human beings. Scientists are now looking at the similarities in human neural networks and tree communication. Let's look at how we nurture our UU trees and our UU groves and forests. What nutrients do we provide? I believe the past, our heritage of both Unitarianism and Universalism, provides ample soil when mixed with the decay and breakdown of older systems. We have the spirit of change in our DNA. We are an actively living tradition. Yes, we can study a system like the Kabbalah, the chakra system, the Buddhist sutras, Yggdrasil, the tree of life, and gain a great deal from these reflections and meditations. I personally have a strong meditation practice, but I am also a UU minister, and I continue to ask myself, what is it that makes us unique as Unitarian Universalists? We have so much to offer the world in terms of openness and love. We are working on expanding that circle even wider. I say, as we struggle to define ourselves as this generation of UUs in our present living tradition, in this alternately beautiful and horrific right now, that we lean into love and compassion for each other. By creating covenants, by sharing music and tears and laughter. Thank you, Celia and the worship team, Irene, tech team. When I think of tapestry, I think of Sundays and line dancing and knitting, all kinds of things. You all really have it in terms of community and the way you share with each other. So that is just awesome. As a denomination, I'm suggesting we feed our roots, communicate through our mycelium together, and share our UU version and vision of love and social justice, arising from the rotting corpses of run-amok capitalism, ecological destruction, colonialism, the patriarchy, and the short-sightedness of many policies of recent decades. As we move into new times, dangerous changing times, we need each other. We need to work right now to enhance our deeper connections as human beings, to nature and to each other. We are still part of a highly connected and sensitive natural system. I am much more hopeful now and truly believe in our ability as resilient UU communities to choose life-affirming connections as we renew ourselves in this desperate opening act of the 21st century. May we align ourselves and be as sensitive and in sync with each other as all of life, as the mycelium and forests have been modeling for us for millennium. May we catch up to them. I suggest that each of us stand as a parent tree or a grandparent tree to the next generation of UUs. Let's actively look for ways to send our love and caring through the mycelium of our roots. Like the mother tree that Dr. Simard has described in her new book, Finding the Mother Tree, may we be nourished in our own lives in such a way that the nutrients of compassion and love flow through each of us into our groves and forests and out into the larger world. The Unitarian Universalist Association has reaffirmed love as the basic building block of our faith tradition. Dr. Simard describes a forest for us. She says, nestled against the towering, hardworking elders were teenage saplings, and leaning into them were even younger seedlings, all huddling as families do in the cold. The spires of the wrinkled old firs reached skyward, sheltering the rest. The way my mother and father and grandmothers and grandfathers protected me. Goodness knows I needed as much care as a seedling, given that I was always getting into trouble. That's her, not me. That's Simard. I'm sure I never got into trouble as a child. May we UUs be as prolific in our love as the city in Pipantri, India, where citizens are working to counteract the traditional bias against girls by planting 111 trees every time a girl child is born. The trees and the girls are carefully cared for as they grow, and the area now has 350,000 new trees. May we be as wise as the linden tree, where they used to hold court in Germany during the Middle Ages. It was believed that only truth could be told under the town's Gerichtslinde. May we hold our duties as sacred and be as stalwart as El Arbol de Tule, the tree in Oaxaca, Mexico, that is revered as a gift from Pachoca, the wind god. Scientists date this tree at an age between 1,200 and 3,000 years old. May we hold and be held for our life passages, like the sapate tree in regions of Indonesia, that gently holds in their loving, hallowed out spaces infants who have died in earlier generations. May we be as gentle as one limb of the Bodhi tree that represents the dear teacher Thich Nhat Hanh, who passed away this week. That's a hard one for me. Our UU networks of sharing and caring are not something new we need to create, but may we be more conscious in the nutrients we are sending through the mycelium to our groves and trees. If you're here today carrying a burden that seems unbearable, a sadness that is difficult to share, a hope that is fragile and new, may you find strength and comfort in our interconnectedness and web of UU caring. To all, may your weekend be blessed, and may the force in the mycelium be with you as we move together to grow and in love and renewal during these challenging times. Amen, shalom, salam, namaste, and blessed be.